Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. This is your Wednesday update. I just got back from Northern California, from San Jose, from the headquarters of the 49ers organization, and just a practice report. Jake Moody still not practicing. Jawan Jennings, hip injury, still not practicing. Kevin Givens, groin injury, core muscle injury. I think he might be out for a little while, and I'll tell you why. George Kittle, foot, not practicing. George Odom, knee injury, not practicing. Deebo Samuel also not practicing. Trent Williams took a vet day. Limited guys. Chris Conley with an ankle injury, I think it was ankle. Nick Bosa limited with an elbow injury, and JP Mason limited with his shoulder injury. So this is what I have interpreted. So when Nick Bosa spoke to the media today, someone said, "Hey, what do you think about Evan Anderson getting his shot?" And he was like, "Oh, was he bumped up to the 53? Was that in place of Kevin Givens?" It was not. It was in place of Brandon Ayuk. So I'm thinking that Kevin Givens might need to have surgery at some point, or they're just trying to rest him for a while to see if it actually does recover some. But core muscle surgery, that's what Nick Bosa had. He knows all about it. So my guess is that it's much more serious than we thought. And that puts the interior of the defensive line kind of in jeopardy. Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott have been holding it down there, but as we saw on that one play that Malik Mustafa was faced off with Patrick Mahomes, the interior of the defensive line separated. I asked Nick Bosa what happened on that play, and he said it's just interior guys needed to be more aware, not just getting outside and letting the floodgates open up to a guy like Patrick Mahomes who's going to run it up the middle. Malik Mustafa, his poor play went viral and he got trucked by Patrick Mahomes, but he wasn't in the right spot. He didn't have his legs underneath him. I mean, Kyle Shanahan told me when I asked him about Malik Mustafa, he's like, yeah, he wasn't in the right positioning. It really shouldn't have been his responsibility. It really should have been the defensive line, and the run defense has not been great. It wasn't great against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, you look at the plays that Patrick Mahomes made, and it's comes down to the defensive line playing a little bit better. So, that being said, in the locker room today, I saw Christian McCaffrey. I haven't seen him much at all. I know he was on the sidelines for the game, but he was throwing jumpers. He was throwing like 3-point shots from the corner of the locker room. There's a basketball hoop in the middle. We're not allowed to video anything anymore in the locker room. That's fun, unfortunately for you guys. But I can just tell you that it's a huge room. And Christian McCaffrey was in the corner shooting jumpers, getting air off the ground. So I think he's feeling better. Also shooting hoops was Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel, who was just released from the hospital yesterday with pneumonia, fluid in his lungs, whatnot, he was back at practice, but not practicing. He was on the side field working with trainers and also shooting baskets on the locker room. So I do think that there is a chance that Deebo Samuel plays. As far as George Kittle, who is out with a foot sprain, Kyle Shanahan said he just can't go today, could go on Sunday. So long weekend is also Sunday night games. So they do have, like an extra few hours. Sometimes that does make the biggest difference. Playing on an injury at the beginning of the day sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. So sometimes they can get treatment in, they can work out and test it out and see if they can go in that night game. So it is Sunday night football. It is Cowboys versus 49ers at Levi Stadium. Jake Moody not coming back until after the bye. Jawan Jennings, still have not seen him on the practice field. I don't know what happened to his hip. He just a hip injury. We don't know any details, but that is a concern. If I do think, well, I don't know. If Deebo Samuel and Jawan Jennings are both out, and it's going to be Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell. Maybe they bump up Trent Taylor. Obviously Brandon Ayuk is out, and he has been officially placed on IR, and Evan Anderson defensive line. I know I have some Evan Anderson fans out there. He is bumped up to the 53. And, he hasn't had a whole lot of playing time yet, but he has done well. Nick Bosa has thought that Evan Anderson, when he's had his chances, has done well. So he'll get a chance to kind of stuff the interior of the defensive line, at least as a rotational player. So that's where they need some help, because what happened to Malik Mustafa should not be happening to him, not because of his play, but because of the defensive line. Nick Bosa told me that his elbow injury actually happened in the Vikings game. That was week 2. So he kind of bumped it again a couple times in the game against the Chiefs. So he just had a sleeve, just like a protective sleeve. He said it's been a little bit sore. JP Mason had the blue non-contact jersey. So I saw him out during pre-practice warmups, and Chris Conley was out during practice as well. Um, Anders Carlson will be taking over kicks, obviously for Sunday. They just need to get that kickoff on punt coverage better because that's what happened. Mitch Wishnowsky got credited for a missed tackle, but he really was trying not to get hurt and just kind of blocking some space, either for the returner to go towards defenders or to go out of bounds. He just kind of stood there. The interesting thing about special teams is that it's not one player who's been a repeat offender missing tackles. Of the 14 missed tackles on special teams, each one is a different person. And of the missed tackles, the four of them on Sunday versus the Chiefs, again, four different people. I thought it was going to be a lot more missed tackles, not just 14 for the season, but they aren't split up on PFF for kickoffs or punts. It is altogether 14 missed tackles. But for how many times they punt and kick off, it is quite a few missed tackles. Missed tackles throughout the game was a little bit better. They had 9 missed tackles in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably 8 of them were on the Patrick Mahomes 33-yard run. I don't know. Anyways, a little bit of humor there. Kind of painful. But I think hopefully the 49ers will get better. Now, you look at their 3-4 record. I know there's a lot of panic out in the world, not at 49ers headquarters, but they've been 3-4 a couple other times. So this is not a new thing. In 2022, they were 3-4. They went to the NFC Championship game. Philadelphia ended it. In 2021, they were in 3-4. They went to the NFC Championship game, lost to the Los Angeles Rams. So a couple of these other seasons, last year this week, they were 5-2. When they went to the Super Bowl in 2019, they were 8-0 until they had a lot before they had a loss. So it could be, they could turn it around. This is a really good time for a bye, but it would be really a great time for them to get a win and then go into the bye. So those are the updates for today. Fred Warner spoke, Nick Bosa spoke, Ricky Pearsall spoke. All of them talked about how there's leadership in the locker room to right the ship. There's leadership in the locker room to turn it around. And it's not terrible. It's not panic mode yet. It's not, 2-5. It's 3-4. So they need to get a win on Sunday to set them kind of, it's a launching point, I think, for them to go into that middle part of the season where it is a lot of travel to the East Coast, a lot of tough games. They're going to need this win on Sunday. All right. I'll be back on Thursday with another update. We'll see if any of these guys that did not practice on Wednesday practice on Thursday. That'll kind of give us a little bit more insight onto what's going to happen on Sunday night. All right, you guys. Hope you're enjoying the daily updates, and I'll get you more tomorrow.